Alright, hello everybody. This is my tutorial video for my brand new mod pack that I just released yesterday. If you haven't seen that video, a link will be like up here or in the description. Click on that, give it a look. I basically, after 3 years, made another mod pack making my Minecraft into a really cool VR experience. So it's pretty cool. And I just want to quickly say before we start this tutorial to get the mod working really well in VR for every player, thank you guys so much. It's been less than a day. It says I have 11,000 views, but it's actually over 12. So honestly, guys, you guys are insane. Thank you guys so much. It means the world to me that you guys enjoy these videos, and just thank you so much. Anyways, enough with that. Like I said, this video is a tutorial for that mod pack. So I know some people might be worried that their computer might not be able to handle this mod pack, but when I made it, I wanted this mod pack to be as playable for as many people as possible. So we're going to go through the settings that you can change to hopefully make it so everyone can play it. We had a bunch of people testing this pack in my Discord. I believe the lowest spec PC we had was someone using a laptop that had a GTX 1050 in it or something like that. And he said that when he tried it, it was okay-ish / fine. So if we can get a very old laptop playing the mod pack to a fine level, I'm sure people with actual desktops should hopefully be fine. And I'm sure that we will be able to find a setting that works for everybody. Also, we have not tested this pack with Questcraft. I'm sorry if you're a Quest only person. If you want to give this a try, please feel free. I have no idea how it's gonna work. And also, if the headset explodes when it's on your face, I will not be held liable for that. And if you do survive trying my mod pack on Questcraft, please let me know down in the comments how it went. I'd be very interested in hearing how that goes. But that is pretty much everything, I think. So what we're gonna do is when you download this mod pack, it's gonna be set up for my computer, which is a high-end PC. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna work our way from the top down. So we're all gonna try the game in high-spec mode. If the FPS is low, I'm gonna show you what settings to change, and we're slowly gonna change settings until hopefully everyone gets a playable experience that works well and you can see far in the distance. And like I said, I'm really hopeful that most people should be able to play this pack in some shape or form. We just need to find out what that form is, which we're gonna do right now. Let's get on with this right now. So as you can see, we are on the Modrinth page, which is where my mod pack is located. I don't use CurseForge. Apologies if that's going to be a pain for you guys. So here we go. We click download, install with Modrinth app, install with Modrinth app. It starts downloading. Pretty easy to do. Then we click on this. We have the mod pack here. So the first thing we're going to do is go into the settings here. We're going to go to Java and memory. Now, we need to change this because by default, it doesn't save the amount of memory allocation, which is good because my computer has a lot. So we want to change this personally for each computer. So if you have 16 gigabytes of RAM in your computer, you'd never want to go above half. So the maximum you could do would be 8. I believe Vivecraft recommends 4 to 8 gigabytes or 4 to 6 gigabytes. So I would say use 6 gigabytes of RAM, or, you know, if you have any less, you have to figure it out. But I'll put on the screen right now the amount of megabytes for 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 6 gigabytes, and so on. If you go above 10 gigabytes, it can cause issues apparently with Java. But I personally use 16 gigabytes in my video because I've got quite a lot of RAM in my computer. But just figure that part out depending on how much RAM you have. Then the next thing we need to do is tick custom Java arguments, and we want to copy and paste in a code, which I have here. I'll put it in the description of this video for you guys to use. Part here is basically something that Vivecraft uses, and if you started Vivecraft or this mod pack without putting this code in, it will probably say at the beginning when a window will pop up saying, hey, you need to put this code in. And then these two, I don't know. I am not a Minecraft wizard. I just really like VR and making VR mod packs and stuff. But someone in my Discord basically said that this helps. So I don't know what they do, but apparently it helps. So just copy and paste the whole thing in there, and that is that done. You can close that and we're good to go. Then the next thing we want to do is click on content, because we need to disable a mod called Slabbed. This is going to be a useful mod when they fix it, and it's good to have it in the pack for now. Basically, it can cause holes in the world that you can see through. It kind of gives you X-ray vision through these slabs. So just turn it off for now. It just means you won't be able to place blocks on everything. But, you know, hey-oh. I still think it's worth keeping in the future for when they add it. All right, so here we are in Minecraft, and we are in my instance, Ryan Clifford's VR experience number 3. But as you can see, we're in flat screen right now, even though it says VR is on. And we actually want to take this a step further and turn the VR to off. Now, you might be wondering, Ryan, why are we turning VR off in a VR mod pack? And that's a good question. The reason is VR is already quite demanding, and we need to first load the level and load the world using Chunky or a Voxy World Gen without VR on. I think that if you do that, it makes it load quicker because, you know, VR is already quite demanding. So if you have VR on and you're trying to load chunks, it's going to take longer than if you just have it in flat screen where it's less demanding and it's focusing most of the processing power on loading the chunks. So that's why we're doing that. Then we have to do a couple of other things before we start and load the world too. So first things first, if you go into options, VR settings, stereo rendering, we want to turn this off. This right here, desktop mirror, is basically how I record my videos. That's the nice view that you have, and this can make it so it uses up a lot of performance, right? Because if you think about it, you have two little screens rendering each of your eyes, and then this then becomes, if you have this desktop mirror on, that's a third screen that it's attempting to render. So you want to turn this off and put it on to desktop mirror off, actually, because that way it's not rendering any third screen and you'll get the maximum performance going to your headset. Me, I have to put this on because I do VR videos, so that's why that's on, but just turn that to off. Then go back and go back again, go to resource packs, and we need to turn on all of the resource packs for this mod. I think it might look a little bit different than this for you guys, but I'll show you guys. But you basically want everything on except 4 mods, which I'll show you now. Okay, so I've just skipped ahead after adding all of my resource packs. There should be 4 resource packs that you haven't added: Programmer Art, High Contrast, Glass Pane Culling Fix, and Default Connected Texture. Don't add those, and the rest of them you can add. And then I don't know if you have to do this, but I remembered seeing way back when I added fresh animations the first time, they said to have it at the very top of the pack. So I put it at the top of the pack. I don't know if you have to do that, but yeah, that's what I do. And then you click done, it will reload, and now we're ready to load our world. Click single player. I'm going to do a new world. We're going to call it tutorial, and we're going to turn it to creative. You don't have to turn it to creative, but I'm just doing it. And create new world, click yes, and we'll load in and get the world generation going. All right, so we have loaded in, as you can see. I'm probably going to put up something on screen now showing my video settings, but really quick, I'll just show you the main 2 because I can show you them now. I have, for VR, my render distance set to 7 chunks and my simulation distance set to 5, which is really low, but the reason we're doing that is because Voxy is going to make up the difference, and at 7 chunk render distance, that's the kind of point, at least I found, where you don't notice the chunks popping in. It's far enough away that you don't notice it, but we're trying to maximize performance here by doing that. So set that to 7 and 5, and then I'm also right now going to show a video of me scrolling through the rest of my settings, so you can pause it here, change the settings how you want, and yeah, that's basically that. So, like I mentioned, you have 2 options for loading the world chunks. You can do Voxy World Gen, or you can do Chunky. And I have personally found, I've tested both of them now, I think Chunky is better. And the reason being is, if you use Voxy World Gen, at least on my computer, when I was in VR and I was moving around, when it tried to, and I moved into a new chunk, it would then load the next chunk of Voxy World Gen, and that would cause my VR to stutter, and that stutter got progressively worse as time went on. So that basically means that you have to load the chunks, even with Voxy World Gen, at the beginning and just kind of stand still for 20 minutes while it loads. And if you're doing that, you may as well just use Chunky, because Chunky at least gives you a progress bar and an estimated time that it's going to take to finish. So, you know, you may as well just use Chunky, and then you can put an alarm on your phone, you know, go touch grass, eat some food, do whatever you need to do, and then come back when it's done. But in case it's just my computer that has a problem, I'm going to show you how to use Voxy World Gen if that's what you want to do. So you go into escape, press mod list, Then type in Voxy World Gen 2, click this, you get the config options, mod enabled, set it to yes, and then generation radius set to whatever you want the generation radius to be. So if you want to do maximum, do 512, and then let it load. But remember, once it's done, I would turn it back off because, like I said, as soon as you start moving around and it tries to load more chunks, I found that it becomes stuttery. But please do let me know if you don't get that in the comments. That would be very useful. But anyways, like I said, that's how you want to use that. If you want to use chunky, which I think is the recommended, follow these steps. Also, in my last video covering Voxy, I suggested turning off Voxy when you're doing the chunky loading. I now don't recommend that because it saves you having to reload the chunks with the Voxy generator later. So what we're going to do is type in chunky shape, and we're going to make it a circle because that's just the one that I prefer. And then we're going to do chunky again, and we're going to do radius. And this depends on your CPU. So if you have a really good CPU, you can do a larger one. Or if you have a less good CPU, you could do a shorter radius. Or if you have a less good CPU, leave this running overnight or whatever so you can get the maximum render distance that you want. I have a decent PC. So I'm going to do 512 chunks. Remember to do the C. The C is important because you're telling the game chunks. Otherwise, it's not going to do like hardly any rendering. So if you have a good computer, I recommend 512 because it will take half an hour. If you have a medium computer, I recommend doing 256 chunks. If you have a low-end computer, a low-spec computer, and you want to play the game relatively quickly, do 126 chunks. And I'm also going to show you how to cancel it, because maybe you do 512 chunks, you click thing, then you click chunky start, you start it, and it's going to show us a progress bar at the top. There we go. All right, it's saying it's going to take an hour, 2 hours, 1 hour. Maybe if you have a lower spec PC, maybe it's saying it's going to take 12 hours, which is way too long if you want to play right now. What you can do is type /chunky cancel, and it's going to say, do you want to confirm that? You're going to click /chunky confirm, and now it stopped it. And now if you want, you can do chunky radius and turn it down to 126 or something like that, 128 chunks, and then click chunky start again, and now it will take way less time. And it should, so for me it's saying it's going to take 2 minutes. Yeah, you can do that. I am going to load 512 chunks because I can. And yeah, I'm going to go have some food. So we'll come back when this is all done. Okay, now as you can see, it is done. And we have some lovely, lovely render distances. Look at that, beautiful. Next thing you can do if you want is you can render the never or the end if you feel like it. So you go chunky, world, and you go, like you can click Minecraft the never, click enter, and then this will now, you do the same settings again. So you do like chunky radius. If I do like radius 128C, and now if I click chunky start, it will do another bar and it will be red because it's the never. You can let that load, and yeah, that's basically it. I'm not going to do this right now as I don't need to do it for this test, but we're going to now exit out and go back into this in VR and start doing the actual testing to get playable frame rates. So let's do that. All right, so now we are in VR. VR is on. We are now going to load into the game and see how it works. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, we're going to start at high end. If the game is laggy for you, we're going to slowly change settings, and hopefully we'll get to a point where the game looks good and plays good. So here we go. All right, so first thing that I think we should do is, as you can see, we can see a lot. I have 512 render distance in Voxy. Yours might be less, depending on how many chunks you decided to load. So the first thing we got to do is, was a mistake on my end actually. As you can see, we have BSL shaders on currently, and the clouds are really low, and I personally really don't like this. So if you quickly go to options, go to video settings, go to shader packs, click on BSL shader pack settings, go to environment clouds, we want to change this cloud height to the maximum and click apply. Just because it looks better, and if you're climbing in the mountains, it's really annoying not being able to see anything because the clouds are in the way. Okay, so now the clouds are higher than the mountains, the game looks good, Good. So basically what you want to do at this point is just kind of walk around, fly around, see how the game is performing. If the game is buttery smooth, congratulations, you can now play my pack without having to change any other settings. Like I mentioned earlier, start with 7 render distance and 5 simulation distance chunks. That is my recommendation to start. This is what I was using in my video, and it works pretty well on a high-end PC. If your game is stuttery, if your game is laggy, we are now going to start changing and lowering settings to try and find one that works best for you. In terms of the shader that I recommend, I do recommend BSL. I think it works best in VR. The other ones work with Voxy, but they don't necessarily work super well with VR. But that is personal preference, and this should apply to the other shaders too, what I'm about to explain. But for this example, we're going to stick with BSL. So, like I said, hopefully the game is super smooth for you right now, but if your game is laggy and it's unplayable, we are first going to change the shader settings to lower them, because I believe if we go to BSL, go back to shader pack settings, you can see that it's set to high. So what I want you now to do, if the game is laggy, change this to medium, apply it, have a run around, see if the game is laggy or not. If it's still laggy, change it to low, run around. If it's still laggy, change it to minimum and try that. And we just change it to minimum. If the game at this point is still way too laggy to play, hopefully it's not, hopefully it's smooth. But if the game is still laggy, you have 2 options, in my opinion, at this point. One, you can try lowering the render distance even further. I think 7 is quite good, but I would say you could go down to 5. If we go down to 5 now, and I just fly around, the reason I don't recommend really going any lower than 5 is you start to see the pop-in a little bit. Can you see like the trees change? You can notice, and it's noticeable a bit when you're walking around in VR. At 7 chunks, it's not as noticeable, but as you can see that the chunks changing at 5 or lower. But if you really prefer to have nice shaders over, and don't mind the chunkiness popping in, then you can lower the render distance. But what I would recommend personally, I think you kind of just gotta take it that it's not going to work super well. Go to shader packs. You could try I like vanilla or just colored lighting. And what these ones are basically exactly what they say. This one just makes the lighting a little bit nicer, but it keeps the kind of vanilla. So if we change it to this right now, as you will see, hopefully, it looks like kind of normal Minecraft, but it's just that the lighting is nicer. And I find that this, once this is loaded and popped in, it's super smooth. I think this is a really smooth one. So hopefully it works with this shader pack on. If you try this shader pack, and it's still not working, unfortunately, I think at this point, you've just got to accept that your computer won't be able to handle shaders, and you're going to have to go video settings, shader packs, and disable it. But to be honest, the main point of this pack is to be able to see super far. The only thing that shaders change is the visuals. You still get all of the birds, you still get the really long render distances, you still have all of the structures, you still have all of the fancy flowers, 3D effects, particles, fresh animations. Every other single mod still works. It's just it doesn't look as pretty. So you still get the same functionality, but it's just going to be really, really smooth. And yeah, that's sort of that. If you, hopefully at this point, the game is working and running well in VR. Like I said, if it's still not running well, with shaders off, you can start lowering the render chunk distance. I don't recommend going any lower than 5. I'm not gonna lie. I think 5 is about it. And I think as a last ditch effort, I really hope that most of you are getting smooth frame rates at this point. You could probably, next step would be, if you're still struggling, is to lower the render distance in the Voxy settings here. So you could change this to like 200 and you could half it, and hopefully that makes a difference. If it's still laggy again, you could half it again to 128-ish or whatever it is. And you know, you are losing a bit, but it's still, even at 128, you're still seeing so much further than you used to be able to see in VR. So, yeah, that's kind of it. But yeah, that is kind of it. Like I said, you still get all of the fancy effects. I mean, you could even lower Voxy even more, because, you know, the max we could get before was like maybe 30 chunks without shaders before the game started to implode. Let's try 60, if I can hit it. 74.
Okay, yeah, I'd say like 60, 70 chunks would be about good, and you still can see stuff in the distance and see structures and stuff. But that's about the limit of how far I would go personally.
Then really quick, one more thing that I want to talk about is if you wanted to add something like Physics Mod Pro, which I couldn't put in the pack because Modrinth only allows you to put the Physics Mod not Pro in. For some reason, it's not on Modrinth. But anyways, if you want to do that, all you do is you have the mod pack here, you download the correct Physics Mod Pro version from the guy that makes his Patreon, which is free, by the way. You can download it. Then you click this three dots here, click open folder, and now you're in your Ryan Clifford's VR Experience free folder. You can then click into the mods category, and you can find Physics Mod or whatever mod you want to add or replace. Delete that one, copy and paste the correct one, the Pro version over, close that, and now you will have Physics Mod Pro in your mod pack. All right, and that is it. Hopefully all of you guys have the mod pack now working in some capacity, whether that be without shaders or with low shaders or with max shaders, whatever it is. I hope it's all working for you really well. If you're still having problems, leave a comment down below, or if you want to get more up-to-date responses, join my Discord, which will be linked in the description of this video. There will be someone there that can help, hopefully either me or someone in the Discord. We're generally quite helpful group of people. So yeah, thank you again all so much for watching. I really hope you guys all get to enjoy this pack, and hopefully it's all working absolutely fine for you guys. Leave a like if you feel like it, and yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.